It's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by a rump.
Hi everyone, it's that time of the week once again where we sit 3 men in front of a microphone, throw them a race card and say tip. 1 or 2 of them throw them in the dustbin and 1 or 2 of them actually produce a few winners. Delighted to welcome you to this week's Champ.ie podcast, and let me introduce the 3 wise men, and it's up to you to decide which one brought the gold. The man with the headphones on is newly married, and goodness me, hasn't he aged in the last 8 weeks? Barry Doyle, also the producer of this epic production, and the 2 young upstarts, Ronan Groome of the Irish Field, Mr. Dependable, tips horses that he actually thinks will win, and a man who also trains horses, let alone tips winners. Sometimes the 2 are the same, Mr. Thomas Coyle. They're your panel for this week, a week which has some very good racing in the UK on Saturday, 2 big handicaps, one at Warwick and the other at Kempton, and of course a big day at Punchestown on Sunday, not just Bob Olinger, but the Moscow Flyer, and let's not forget the Amateurs Grand National, which I see they've put on last in the hope they'll all get home before nightfall. Let's go straight in then, and we're going to start at Warwick, something we don't do very often because it's a toss-up between Warwick and Kempton, and this is Warwick's big day of the year. Some grade 2 action, but the feature race is the staying handicap chase at 3 o'clock. It is the Agatur UK Classic, and a field headed by Korak Rambler for Lucinda Russell and Derek Fox. Remember, they won this in 2017 with One for Arthur, who went on to win the National, and Not a Chance is trying to win it for the 2nd year running. Do you think he has a chance, Ronan?
He definitely has a chance, Mike. He comes here on the same mark when he won before. Now, he doesn't come in the same type of form. He's been pulled up in 3 of his last 4 starts, which is a bit of a worry. But I'm reading positive reports from the jockey Tom Cannon. He was bigging him up this week. So of those at the top of the market, I thought he'd be the one I'd side with. But I'm going to go for a bigger price here. I just want to take on a couple, as you said. Jericho Rock is the favourite, and Korak Rambler is there, and it is very interesting that Lucinda Russell goes for this with him. I think she sees him as a Scottish national horse, so it's interesting that she comes here. But I thought the form of his race was a bit disappointing the last day. It didn't work out great. And the other horse, the pipe horse, Jericho Rock, is very unexposed, but I think this is a rough and ready type of race. You need a bit of experience to get around. Warwick can be sharp track, takes a lot of jumping. And I'm just going to go for one at a bit of a price. I like one for the good doctor here, going all the way down the market to Manila and Encore. Most of our Irish listeners and probably a lot of our English listeners will know he was with Willie Mullins before. He was useful enough over hurdles. He won his bumper at Fairy House. He won 2 bumpers actually. Didn't get off the mark over hurdles, but he's just the type that Richard Newland does well with. Obviously, most famously did well with Peter DeRay coming out of Ireland, and he picked this fellow up and he's got him going this season. He's won 2 of his 3 starts, one by 24 lengths, the other by 18 lengths. I just thought he was a big price. He's come up in the weights. He's up to 137 now, but he's just going the right direction. And he's a 10-year-old, but he's a lightly raced 10-year-old. So he's kind of the right blend of age and kind of scope to improve. So, you know, he's not a certain stayer, but a lot of them aren't in this race. Bard likes Not a Chance. So I'll side with him at 20-1, Mike. I thought that was a big price.
Richard Newland, of course, trains just down the road, and it's almost his local track. But it is a question of stamina. Mr. Coyle, where has your pin landed?
Well, for putting the focus on stamina, I picked Venetia Williams. I know he's a 12-year-old, but a killie. He was 4th in the Welsh National. He plugged on either lightweight. I think the young lad, Hugh Nugent, rode him either lightweight. So he's up near top weight. So he's coming down in grade a bit. But I watched him that day. He just plugged on. So he's one that's going to keep going. So for the each way kind of money, I think he's about 8 or 9 to 1. Venetia Williams is flying at the minute. She's she's working at over 20%. Horses are flying, and it's a typical race for her. Soft ground chase. It's kind of made for. I know he's an old timer, but he'll definitely be rattling away. I have another couple. One that's very interesting is the Skeleton horse, Paddle Your Own Canoe. He ran a cracker on comeback after maybe 15 months off the last time. He has been placed in bigger handicaps of 140, so a mark of 135 here looks lenient. He was only beaten 5 lengths on his return over in a hurdle race, so hopefully you'd imagine that will have sharpened him up a lot. So he definitely has a chance. And one more I picked is the kind of the Evan Williams team. He's won some big races on Saturdays for the last while. I remember Don Levant, who we'll talk about later on, and he won that big Veterans Chase last weekend as well. So no rematch. And Adam Wedge comes here this weekend as well, which is always a plus. He was disappointing on reappearance in Exeter, all right, but his debut over fences was good. He's very unexposed over fences. He's only had the 2 runs, but he signed off last year with his with a good win in a novice handicap. So he could be open to a lot more improvements. So he's definitely one for a team that knows how to win these big handicaps on a Saturday. So no rematch would definitely be thereabouts as well. You're on mute, Mike.
Right.
You've muted yourself. You've muted yourself, Mike Vince.
Say that you look at the race, you think of Chirico Vallis, one of JP, who hasn't been seen since beating Kitty's Light at Chepstow in October. So it's going to be interesting if anything comes out of this for the Grand National. Thomas Coyle was talking about ones that need improvement. Here's the master of improvement, Mr. Doyle. What do you make of this?
Yeah, the lads are overcomplicating this, I think. I think the favourite goes and wins, and there's probably still juice in the price. He's very likely raced. He's only had, 6 runs? Thomas talking about Aquile, some plenty of experienced rivals here, but he was a big eye catcher for me at Newbury, and I think he ran into one who's just came up short to St. Palais, who's got up a good 27 pounds and was going for 3 on the bounce. But the eye catcher for me was Jericho Rocca, the pipe horse. I think, his jumping was good. He was kind of on the inside the whole way around, but travelled very much in Tom Scudamore's hands on the day. And I just feel as though there's probably still juice in the price at 4-1. And we know Mr. Pipe and the big setter handicaps. I think he's very progressive, this horse, and
he's had one winner in his last 33 runners. That'd be very.
I also think the other thing I would say is
I'll
put
it to you like this, Tom Coyle. This horse ran 17 days ago, and only for he ran into St. Palais, he would have been a winner. So he's got up 6 pounds. This horse, I think, is in good form, and the weight is reasonable. He carries 11 stone 3, so he goes and wins.
Okay, so let's move on from there and a quick look at the supporting card. A couple of interesting graded races. We've also got, of course, Sadi Ballet running in the Pertemps qualifier race. He's won the final twice and was second in the World Hurdle, and they chucked him into the qualifier, Gordon Elliott has, which is the race that follows the feature. We've got the Ballymore Lemington at 225. Surrey Quest on a hat-trick for the Henderson team. Probably going to go off favourite. And then we've also got the Wigney Group Hampton, which is all about our guest, Adrian Heskin, and 3-under-through-5. We'll talk about that in a moment. But how do you see these? Just a brief word about them, Ronan, first of all.
Yeah, Mike. Randomly enough, I was at this day in 6 years ago when Black Hercules and Thomas Hobson won these 2 Grade 2s. Willie Mullen sent them over. And I just don't think we have that type of horse here this year. Bar maybe 3-under-through-5. I've liked him so far. He's obviously in the Hampton Novices Chase. He looks like a penalty kick for him. Interesting to hear what Adrian Heskin has to say, because he's obviously sat on him for all of his wins, and he hasn't beaten much 300-5, but he's done well on the clock. He's always put up a nice performance on the clock, so it's kind of backed up his performances, and I think he should take care of that grade 2. In the hurdle, I'm not going to take much time on this because I'm it's not a race I have a huge opinion on. Surrey Quest, obviously, going the right direction, won his last 2 starts, and you obviously respect Henderson. But it just looks a minefield of a race full of horses that are improving, and you don't know what stage they're at. Party Business obviously was going to run a big race in the shallow hurdle last time when he came down. He was a big price there. He probably was going to outrun it. His odds might have been second, so he'll be interested to see who he gets on. That he kind of sets a bit of a form standard, so you know what type of race it's going to be or what sort of standard they can run at. He's a good yardstick, but it's not a betting race for me. So I think there are better opportunities, Kempton and the like. So I stick to there.
Anything to add, TC?
No, not really. The 300-5 looks, as you said, a penalty kick. His one blip that he got bet, he beat that horse of Kim Bailey's since, so he's put that right. Jumps well. Yeah, just interesting. Obviously, I don't think he'll win that, but it's interesting to see Mossy Fenn come back, and he's with the Christian Williams yard. He could be a horse now to look further on, maybe at Cheltenham in a handicap later on. Christian's horses are running well at the minute as well, so he could be something a bit interesting down the line. And just in the hurdle, Party Business, as you said, it just showed that his maiden hurdle winner in Ascot was no fluke, because he was running a nice race in that race that's Nicky Henderson's stage start, or not Nicky, Paul Nicholls, isn't it? He was running well in that. And the other one in that race that I give a chance, Staghorn, he's rated very high on the flat. I think he's about 105 nearly on the flat, and he done it well in Hereford the last day. He beat a good yardstick for hurdles. He beat a horse that was rated 122 over hurdles, which is good for your first day out, that you can put it up and show that you're beating a decent handicapper. You'd imagine there'd be a lot of improvement in his jumping and that from that. So he's one to look at in that race as well.
Barry?
The 150, obviously we're going to hear from Adrian Heskin. I do agree with Ronan. We all remember the day that Black Hercules, Thomas Hobson. I don't think this card has been as strong for the last couple of seasons. 300-5, obviously the class horse in here. He does give quite a bit of weight away. It's 5 pounds to mint condition. And this horse ran a cracker last year in the Lemington. Was only beaten a neck by Adramel. Now, I'm not sure how well the form has worked out. A couple of the horses in behind, the likes of Midnight River, went there with a big reputation to the Lemington last year. The horse I liked as well, JB1. So how well that Lemington is after working out, I'm not entirely sure. But he impressed me actually the way he grounded out last time at Haydock. Was on bottomless ground over 2 miles 6. And I just think he gets a bit of weight here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him outrun his odds and get maybe a little bit closer to 300-5 than people expect. All 300-5s winning, albeit he's won a bumper on soft ground. That has been good in the description. And listening to Adrian, we'll hear him speaking. He did mention about his ideal conditions would probably have good in it. So mint condition, we know he handles the track. He jumped well on his starts over fences. He will stay and he gets weight. So I think he could maybe outrun. He possibly should be shorter in price, which I don't know. In that case, does it make him a bet here? I think 300-5 is plenty short for this. Later on in the season, I would be interested in 300-5 for something like a National Hunt Chase. He's that type of profile, but I think, given the conditions on this track, mint condition could run well. I did like Nicky Henderson's horse, who is favoured for the Lemington. When he got to the front, he's only had 2 starts over hurdles, but when he got to the front last time, he was doing an awful lot of gawking. He was looking around. He was idling. There was a lot more in the tank with this Surrey Quest, and we all know how strong Nicky Henderson's novice hurdlers are this season. He's made no secret. about. And this fella could have a lot more to come. He's already a rating of 135. Won very cozy last time, as I say, and yeah, I would be fancying him to go and do the business here. It's not very original. I don't think there's much in the race, and yeah, I'd fancy him to back it up and stay unbeaten. Over
Okay, well, we move straight on to Kempton. You know, you move much faster than you do in any airline when you join the Champ.ie weekly podcast. We take you to destinations and places and horses that nowhere else does, that's for sure. Let's look at the Coral Lanzarote. 20 runners, won last year by a 66-1 rag. N. Henderson's won 2 of the last 4, and he's got the favourite in this, in Marie's Rock, who won on Boxing Day. He's currently favourite. Others at the top of the market, the Nichols runner Gelino Bello, who was a good second last time to Blazing Kyle of Charles Burns's, and also towards the top of the market, Green Book for Venetia Williams, going for a hat-trick, and Earth Lord, another one going for a hat-trick for Philip Hobbs's team. Mr. Coyle, would you like first innings on this?
Yeah, look, it's a
well,
good
you're getting first innings on it, whether you want it or not.
Yeah, I don't know if I want it now, but yeah, look, it's a good competitive handicap. The favourite for me deserves to be it. I just have my questions about Marie's Rock in a big field handicap like this. She was very impressive, visually very impressive the last time, but I just have one worry. The winning she does has been in small 7-8 fields. She ran in one good handicap where 17 runners, and I don't know did she really enjoy the hustle and the bustle of it.
She'll win the Coral Cup.
Jeez, that's a bit of an understatement there now.
The spokesman had it.
No, I couldn't have her. But just I'll run through a couple of these. I think Don Levant, as we said earlier, the Williams have been doing well on Saturdays. She ran well against Stormy Ireland. You have to realise she gave Stormy Ireland £5 as well in that race in Cheltenham the last day, and the daughter Isabel, I'm pretty sure she wouldn't have been able to claim her £5 in a grade 2 or grade 3. So she's coming back into a handicap where she's going to get that £5 as well. She'll be there. I like Earth Lord. He done it really well in Wincanton. I know off a lower weight, but he probably improved again to win the conditional jockeys hurdle in Ascot after. He definitely was worth more than 3/4 of a length, and I think he's a horse that's, I think, has a big future. And whatever he does over hurdles is going to be a bonus, because when he goes jumping fences, I think he could be a very, very good horse.
It's a hard handicap to get your head around. You can't have a hugely strong opinion, but it's there. It's a great betting race, and I've backed 2 in it already. I love the profile of Venetia's horse there, Green Book. He was a fairly useful sort in the flat. He was 5th, I think, in a Queen Alexandra at Royal Ascot on soft ground. I think this sets up lovely for him. He's a young, progressive horse over hurdles. He's only had 4 starts. He's won his last 2. And this is 20 runners. They're going to go a strong pace here, and it's going to be on soft ground, I'd say. And it's going to set up for something to come home and stay well over the trip. And I think he's a strong stayer at this 2 mile 5 trip. So he was my selection out at the top of the market. I guess the kind of clamour around Marie's Rock, she's been well backed most times she's ran, and she got it together over the course and distance here on St. Stephen's Day. And Gelino Bello, a lot of people will be watching him keen-eyed towards Blazing Cal, he's obviously quite strongly linked with that form for the Albert Bartlett favourite. I'm going to have one wild swipe at the bottom of the market, or the bottom of the market there, and take a chance on Monte Cristo for Nicky Henderson. He's 40-1. Well, I'll take the each way on the 6 places here. Look, he was a bit of a drifter on his comeback run at Newbury, probably suggesting that he probably wasn't ready, and he was pulled up there duly. But he won over this course and distance. He won the same race that Marie's Rock won on St. Stephen's Day last year at Kempton, and he was unlucky. I backed him for the Coral Cup. He was unlucky. A horse fell in front of him just as he was trying to make his ground. He's £6 higher than his last win here at Kempton over the course and distance. And I'm just going to track him in the market. I've backed him already at 40s. I might have a go again on Saturday morning to see if there's any sort of positivity for him, given his proven record over this course and distance. So 2 for me are Green, Book, and Monte Cristo.
You see, he's lost his shirt already. He just needs to lose that sweater for a full house. Barry.
We're probably going to have mentioned every single horse in the race by the time I come along. But anyway, I think Gelino Bello, I think he probably deserves to be favoured. Marie's Rock's gone up. She impressed me actually last time. I backed her and she's gone up £9, I think, for the win. But like I said, I think given Nicky likes this race with a pointer to the Coral Cup, and I think Marie's Rock, he's a fantastic record in the Coral Cup. So there could be targets later on in the spring for the likes of her. Gelino Bello is a horse I've liked all season. A bumper winner last year for Paul Nicholls. Ronan mentioned the form with Blazing Cal. He's obviously locked horns with him twice. He's favoured for the Albert Bartlett, and I think rightfully so. The thing I like about this horse is it's soft ground. He's coming back to a flat track. He's won at entry on ground that probably wasn't ideal. He's having his 4th start now over hurdles. He's going to obviously, in terms of experience, he's obviously going to come into the race with a lot more experience. And look, off a mark of 138, he's actually dropped £2 from his original mark given 140. I think that's workable here. And as I say, on soft ground at Kempton, just given the way his run style, I wouldn't be surprised if this horse turns out a lot better on a flatter track like Kempton. So there's probably still juice in his price. I'd have him of the front two. I will give you one of the bigger price. Highway 102 came back to winning ways last time at Taunton. It was a decent winner, to be fair. He's got up £5 for that. He is a course winner. He's a big old price of 25 to 1. He could run well for each way backers. But as I said, Gelino Bello for me.
I'll just throw one more in the mix, go right to the very bottom. We've got a hat-trick ticket called On My Command, who's actually 2 from 2 for Harry Fry and Jonathan Burt. Yards in good nick, might go well at a half-decent price. Or there again, it might not. Let's move on to the rest of the Kempton card, and we must look at this, albeit briefly, at this Coral Silviniaco Conti, grade 2, 2.5 miles for 80 grand. Just 4 runners, which is slightly disappointing. And who would have thought it? Definitely destroyed the former champion chaser, the outsider of the quartet, Mr. Fisher, the favourite. You can't really put a line through any of these with any confidence, can you, Ronan?
No, absolutely not. I wrote a preview for this race earlier in the week, and it's just been ripped apart by the declarations that you had Master Tommy Tucker, Dashel Drasher, and Fanion Destraval in there, and I thought it would set up lovely for Fanion Destraval coming with those two kind of dueling up front. But all 3 of them obviously aren't declared, and the race is a bit disappointing now. It's as you said, it's £80,000 grade 2, and you're scratching your head looking at it. I guess Mr. Fisher pulled up in the King George, albeit they went very fast in the King George, so it would have been a tough run for him on his run back. So you can't excuse him that, and he comes out top rated here, so you can see why he's in favours. I just wouldn't be for me at 7 to 4 off the back of that run. And I kind of, by process of elimination, you're kind of looking at El Dorado Allen. Look, he seems limited to me. Did well to win Exeter. The Holden Gold Cup, obviously that's nice form. That race has worked out really well, but kind of showed his limits then when he was 3rd in the Peterborough to first flow. So he's out of all these, he's proven over the trip, and he has a reasonable standard of form. Like Rouge Vif, obviously coming up in trip, you don't know if he's going to stay, and Defi de Soil just seems to have gone off the boil altogether. So El Dorado Allen would be the most solid out of the 4 for me, Mike, but it's just not a appeasing betting heat at the moment.
Tommy Coyle.
Yeah, I wouldn't have much to add to that. It's poor. I came down on El Dorado Allen as well. I thought the extra furlong, he did plug away at the end the last day, so I thought the extra furlong might suit him. Rouge Viv, I've written down here, I think he's beaten 4 horses in his last 4 runs, so you couldn't be having him. Mr. Fisher, as Ronan said, too hard of a race at Kempton for me. And Defi de Soil, sure, if you're going on his last run through Lost in Translation and what he done in Kempton as well, for £80,000, it's a shocker, and I'd be staying away from it.
Barry.
2 old flames in here, Mr. Vince. Rouge Viv and Eldorado Allen. Tom, to be fair, you make a good point about Rouge Viv. It's a massive worry, his form. We could turn around on Saturday evening. You could be saying this is a fantastic bit of placing by Paul Nicholls. Yeah. But to me, I think the ground is a worry, isn't it? He's always been a better horse on better ground. Eldorado Allen, fantastic jumper, will appreciate the step up in trip. Couldn't entertain any of this Mr. Fisher, Defi de Sol talk. They were just Defi de Sol's run the last time. I can't really get over that, to be honest. I fancied him. Everything was right for him. The stars had aligned, and he still ran the way he did. Eldorado Allen, for me, is a horse that we know he's in decent form. Second in an Arkle last year. He is, as I say, going up in trip, and with the spring festivals in mind, he could be one that maybe could surprise a few. If were he to go and win this, I do believe in this horse, and I have done. I think he's talented, and I'd be expecting. Look, he's a bet here for me at 9-4, but I'd be expecting the horse to continue to progress as the season goes on.
And anybody hands up? Got anything else to say about Kempton? Any hands going up? No. Now you're scratching your nose, or is that your hand up, Ronan? Anyway, we're going to move on. In that case, before we talk about Punchestown on Sunday, which is a cracking card, let's hear more then from Adrian Heskin. Remember, he's a young Irishman who started life really riding for Michael Hourigan. Then he came across the Irish scene. Now he rides for the McNeil family, and he's got this very important ride at Warwick. Let's hear about that and other things. And he's been in conversation with somebody called Barry Doyle.
Oh, delighted to have Adrian Heskin on the Champ.ie podcast, joining us for episode number 9 of the season. Adrian, I believe you had a long trip down to Paul Nicholls' today, and it's an exciting weekend coming up for you.
Yeah, definitely. Great to be on the show, Barry. I was down in Paul Nicholls this morning, just giving Threeunderthrufive his finishing touches before his run in the Grade 2 Novice Chase in Warwick on Saturday, and he's going there in good form. So, yeah, exciting morning and exciting weekend ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose, how is life on the other side of the Irish Ocean, Adrian? 22% strike rate so far this season. That's pretty decent.
Yeah, no, look, I'm loving it over here. I'm very fortunate since I came over. I've came across some great people and lucky to be working for good people in the McNeil family, and it's given me an opportunity to work with some good trainers, the likes of Paul Nicholls and Alan King, Ollie Murphy, and a couple of trainers in Ireland as well, William Mullins and Gordon Elliott. So it's great to be able to ride for people like that. And I'm here just over 5 years now, and really enjoying life.
So yeah, Threeunderthrufive, Adrian, you sat on him today. He's 3 from 4 over fences, rating of 151 now. He's been well supported for the Hamden Novice Chase, which has always been a very competitive race with a view, I suppose, to the spring. It's thrown up some decent winners also. How is the horse? You sat on him today.
Yeah, he's in great shape, and as you say, he's 3 from 4 over fences. I didn't ride him on his first start over fences in Chepstow. Harry Cobden rode him, and he had a lovely introduction, and he probably just wasn't sharp enough on the day, the horse, but he done nothing but improve since. He won well in Exeter and again in Cheltenham after that, and he won Doncaster Grade 2 in the meantime as well. So he's had a great season thus far, and if everything went smoothly on Saturday for him, you'd like to think he'd have a nice target in the spring.
Yeah, and what type of horse is he? Like, what would you say is his biggest strength?
Well, he's quite an unassuming horse because he doesn't do anything flash. He's not one of them horses that travels around on the bridle, but he's a great record. He's a bit workmanlike, but his times of his races have been quite good. So he's not a plodder either. I think he's just a great attitude and a tough horse, and there's always plenty there to give you, know.
Yeah, and I suppose the one thing I did notice, most of his winning this season, Adrian, has, I suppose we've had good in the ground description. Obviously it's soft. The ground at the moment is soft than Warwick. Could he be even better on soft ground? He's won on soft before.
He has won on soft, yeah. He won his bumper on railbag ground and Chepstow. I actually think he's a better horse on good to soft type of ground. He just finds life a bit easier and he gets a bit stuck in heavy ground. But Warwick was very testing last week, but we've had a dry week here. There's a bit of frost around. I don't think it won't be heavy ground certainly on Saturday, so that's not a concern for my part. But I think going into the spring, he'll might even come a bit better.
Yeah, and look, just you mentioned the springtime. Obviously, he's proven 3 times, you know, over 3 miles plus. I suppose the National Hunt Chase. I've heard it been mentioned for the horse. He looks to have the ideal profile for that type of race. Is that the plan?
It'll be either that or the March Chase, the 3 mile one. We'll have to take in Saturday and see how that goes first, but he certainly looks one of the better 3 milers here in England at the moment. So that's also an option.
Yeah, I said earlier on, like, he is rated 151. How far do you think he could go?
Oh, sure. Look, he's. I don't think we're anywhere near the bottom of him yet. Anyway, to be honest with you, Barry, he's doing well. He's always a bit workmanlike, but as I say, he keeps getting the job done. So we won't know until he's beaten how good he's going to be.
Yeah, tomorrow obviously kicks off the weekend in terms of rides for yourself. You're in, I suppose, the bumper tomorrow. The McNeil's run a horse by Keith Tara, a horse called Butch. Thoughts on him?
Thoughts on him? He's a lovely horse. For a newcomers bumper tomorrow in Huntington, there's actually plenty strength and depth to it. There's Nicky Anderson runs a nice cap guard horse that's closely related to Denman and Silverburn. Gary Moore has a 4-year-old in there by Gentle Wave that's getting a stone from us, so that's going to be hard to give away. But he's a very nice horse for down the line. And tomorrow isn't to be all and end all for him, but great to get these young horses started off on nice tracks, you know.
Yeah, sure. Just to come down, obviously we've been talking about the McNeil family. Tritonic, you know, he's a horse. He's 1 from 4 this season. We last seen him run against Epitant, of course, in the Christmas hurdle. How has he come out of that race, and is there a plan yet for him?
Yeah, the Christmas hurdle was kind of an afterthought, to be honest with you. He won nicely in Ascot only 8 days previous, I think it was. And you know, them 2 mile handicaps, they're quite hard on horses because they go a relentless gallop. He was only a 4-year-old at the time, and he's obviously 5 now. It's a tough year for horses, but the Betfair hurdle is the plan now in Newbury, and hopefully he can give us a good show on that. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him back in something like the Christmas hurdle next year. We'd be hoping he could get up to that level, just with an extra year under his belt.
Yeah, he's a horse, I suppose, that went into the Cheltenham Festival last year with a fairly lofty reputation.
Definitely didn't see him in his best light at Cheltenham last year. I think he had a hard race in Ascot, his first run over hurdles. Probably he wasn't fully wound up for the day, but we couldn't leave it behind us either. And then he went to Kempton for the Adonis, and Cheltenham falls quite quickly after that. I don't know. I don't think it's an ideal prep race for the Triumph hurdle. With a juvenile, it's just 2 runs very close together, and he was probably gone off the boil. But he won 100. It was $100 grand handicap. He won in Ascot just before Christmas on Long Walk Hurdle Day. So if he didn't win another race for the rest of the year, he's his job done this year, and it's kind of a transition period just to get him to next season and see how far he can go then.
Yeah, there's a horse I wanted to ask you, a horse that I've liked for quite some time, and has he had his issues, Adrian? IK Brunel.
IK Brunel, yes, lovely horse. He did very well in his novice hurdle season, and we lost his way a little bit then over fences. He had a hard race on his first run over fences in Fontwell. Then we ran him back in Warwick, and he bumped in, not Warwick, Wetherby, sorry, and he was well beaten by Shan Blue the same day. We didn't really realise what we were after bumping into there, and we reverted to going back hurdling. Maybe a little bit too soon we went back hurdling, but he seems to be after coming to himself with 2 nice runs this year. He won a Newbury handicap well on his last start. He's just a horse that takes a bit of time in between his runs, and that's what he's getting now. So looking forward to seeing him out within the next 2 weeks maybe.
Yeah, and I suppose he's 130 over fences. Is the plan to stick down the same route over fences this season for the remainder?
I'd be thinking so. I think he's probably on a nice mark again. Max loves to support the Scottish national meeting in Ayr, so there's a good handicap over 3 miles for novices up there. There's good prize money on offer, so that's his end aim for this season. But he'll have a run or 2 in the meantime.
Yeah, and just wanted to mention Kilteely Briggs. Jamie Snowden trained, obviously. Was a tough ask, wasn't it, in the Cato Star Novice Chase? I suppose, what type of field did he give you? He is on is it a rating of 137, Kilteely Briggs?
Yeah, look, there was a small field in Kempton. That's why we went there with him. He was a horse after his novice hurdle year. He got very bad colic, and he never really hit the ground running last season. He got off the mark in Haydock over fences earlier this year, and we were just looking for somewhere to run him, and we decided to run him in Kempton, and he was by no means disgraced the same day. He's after finishing 3rd in a Grade 1, but handicaps are probably where his future lies.
Will we see him at one of the spring festivals, Adrian?
Yeah, he's possibly a horse. We could aim him for the Ultima Cheltenham. That was a race Max sponsored for many years. That was his business. So it's a race he loves having runners in.
I wanted to mention one. Obviously, you're making the trip to Warwick, but Marie's Rock, you did ride her. Must have given you a good feel, did she, last time?
She did. To be fair, that was my first ride for Nicky, actually, and obviously my first time sitting on the mare. And the race just really panned out for her that day, but she was probably the class act in the race as well. She got a hefty rise for her. She went up 9 pounds, but course and distance form around Kempton plays for a lot, and if they go a good gallop for her on Saturday, she needs to come from off the pace. I think she'll give Nico a very good ride, and I'll be watching intently, and best luck to them.
Yeah.
I know you need a bit of luck on your side as well with 20 runners in the Lanzarote, but she's enough boot. She'll be able to pick her way through them, and I can see her running a very big race. She'll definitely be one to watch over the weekend.
Champ.ie listeners, is there any maybe young horse, maybe one that we have yet to maybe see this season or since the turn of the year that maybe you're keen to get on board again?
We run a horse called Shearer next weekend in Lingfield at the new meeting they've put on there. I think it's been called the Winter Millions, which is great initiative over here. Paul Nichols trains him. He runs there in the novice handicap hurdle. he ran a couple of novices. The races didn't really pan out to suit him, but now that he's able to contest in handicap company, I think he'll start to progress, and he'll be a good ride next. It's either Friday or Sunday next week, so he's one to keep an eye on.
Fingers crossed for 300-5 this weekend, of course, in the Hamden. Best of luck with all your remaining rides, and for the rest of the season. Adrian Heskin, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks very much, Barry. Good to speak to you.
Well, with due respect to the 116 or however many runners it is at Fairyhouse, 2 of which are trained by a certain T. Coyle, and when you hear his nap and next best, you know whether he fancies them or not. A really good card at Punchestown on Sunday. Certainly is the premier card in Ireland this weekend. Going to be quite testing the conditions, but when you see some of those involved, the Skybet Moscow Flyer is the second race on the card. This has got a very good record of WP Mullins winners that go on to the festival. And then you've also got the Grade 3 Kildare Novice Chase, all eyes on Bob Olinger, a beginner's chase that could be anything. It's normally fun and games watching it. And then we end with the Amateur Riders Grand National. But there's going to be a lot of interest. But let's start then with this Moscow Flyer. And does this have WP Mullins written all over it, Ronan?
Yeah, I think so, Mike. Myself and Barry were kind of discussing this the other night, and look, for me, Dysart Dynamo's in there and Hawaii Game is in there, and I think they'll both run. Dysart Dynamo was odds on. He was impressive at Cork. He won by 19 lengths. He recorded a good time. And as you mentioned, Willie Mullins has a great record in this race. He obviously won it with the likes of Vautour, Duvan, Min, Get a Bird. Obviously hasn't won it since Get a Bird, but I think it's noteworthy that he sends this Dysart Dynamo here. He's had a bit of a reputation after his 2 bumper wins last season, and he duly got it done at Cork. He won really easily there. Look, I just think with the most interesting aspect of this race is the Supreme market. I just have this hunch that the 2 Henderson horses have been a bit overrated by virtue of the fact that a lot of Willie Mullins' horses and horses over here haven't had a chance to run on the quick ground or have been kept back, and I think this might just shake up the market. I backed Dysart Dynamo this week for the Supreme on the back of his entry here. He'll probably end up not running there or something silly, but I think if he runs here and he wins, he'll be at least half the price for the Supreme, and I do think he can shake up the market. He was really impressive at Cork, and given Willie Mullins' record in this race, Dysart Dynamo is likely to go straight to Cheltenham after this. All those horses I mentioned went off favourite or second favourite for the Supreme. And this is a good race. So if Dysart Dynamo can get it done and oblige odds on, he's beaten the likes of Gilly Billy, who was 25 length winner at Chamor. Hawaii Game won nicely at Nace, and Gringo Dobrell brings in that grade 1 form from England. So he was third in the Shallow. So it's a good race, and I think this is the first kind of shot in anger from the Irish novice hurdlers. Bearing in mind we still have Mikey Potter and the likes of them to come back out again at Dublin Race Festival, but I do like this Dysart Dynamo, so looking forward to seeing him.
Tommy, do you share those views?
Yeah, I think it's nearly going to be a 2-horse race. I think between if Willie's 2 do turn up. I do probably Dysart Dynamo. Look, he's visually impressive in Cork and what he done in his bumpers. But this Hawaii Game, he done it nice in Nace, and Nace is a good track. And to win there the way he did with a 30, and he bet a horse Daily Present, who came out with the Michael Goff School and the Point of Points. Young Joey Dunn that lives down the road, he actually won on him. And he went Durup's Eyes with another horse at the last that fell. And he's gone on. The other horse has gone on to Gordon Elliott's, and he finished second to Redemption Day in Leopardstown at Christmas. The horse is moving Star, I think it could be called. Gordon has him now, so he was second to the very impressive Redemption Day at Leopardstown. So look, the bit of form all ties in. I think, yeah, look, it'll be interesting if Willie does run the 2 of them, because it could definitely turn up the Supreme market. But I definitely think he's going to give, if the 2 of them turn up, that this horse is going to give Dysart Dynamo a race. So it'll be interesting to see.
It's good to see quite a few being talked about for the Supreme. There are only 8 runners, remember, at at Cheltenham last March in the Supreme. Barry, are you going in with the lads? We got unanimous for you here.
I don't like his head carriage. He's like Ronan Groome after a couple of points at a wedding. Dysart Dynamo. I noticed the tongue strap has been removed. Tom has different views than I have when it comes to tongue straps, but
depends who are putting them on, you or Ronan.
He's been wearing a tongue strap since just before Christmas, haven't you, Barry?
I'll give you a commentary on Dysart Dynamo on debut at Cork. I thought the faster they went in the latter part, they were they quick from 3 out to the line. When they did quicken up, he jumped better. He was sloppy, in the early part of the race. But I wouldn't worry. I think in a better quality race, he is going to probably jump better. There's just something about him, though. He doesn't fit in over 2 miles or 2.5. I don't know. He's not doing it for me at this point. Hawaii game, interesting, as Tom says, that they run him. Like his point about Nace, the Paul Nolan horse in behind Daily Present. Be interested to see how that form line works out. I think he warrants a step up in grade. We just don't know, is there a plan for him later on in the season, or will he go and put it up to Dysart Dynamo here? On the visual form, I think he's every chance in here, and he might go under the radar. It's not priced up, obviously, that I can see, but the other one to mention as well is Gilly Billy. He disappointed on first run this season, came with a big reputation, didn't he?
He only won up in Toon Bridge, though, which wouldn't be that.
It squelched a victory at Tremor, didn't it? I mean, Tremor was almost unraceable.
That horse he beat actually runs in Fairyhouse, so that'll be interesting to see tomorrow. Willie's Hautier or something that runs on Saturday. Sorry, so be interesting to see how that is.
It looked distinctly Van Ordinaire. What about the rest of the Punchestown card? Bob Olinger, yes or no, Ronan?
Yes. I mean, yes. He's going to be odds on.
No?
He is what he is. He's excellent. Last season, he was a bit. I thought he wasn't great. It wasn't amazing on his beginner's chase. I thought he was a bit screwy at some of the fences and jinked a bit. And you'd want to see him jump better now for Cheltenham here. And this isn't a bad grade tree at all. I mean, there's a few horses coming here, I'd imagine, on account of the soft ground. Galliard de Menil is a horse I like. I think he could be better over further, but he was a good hurdler last season. Obviously, just finished second to Bob Olinger and the Ballymore. I know Barry likes Capodanno, so you'll talk about him if he does run here. Ember and Mitcha was second to him at Nace as well. And likes a Lifetime Ambition in there as well. It's a good race, so I think Bob Olinger's mettle will be tested, and I think he'll need to be on his A game to be winning here.
Anything else? Punchestown?
Not for me, at Punchestown. I have a couple of names.
No, Tom. What about you? Yes or no, Bob Olinger?
Oh, 100% yes. For me, he's one of the best horses in training in Ireland. And
Can't jump.
Don't worry about that. Boys, down in Gordon Park's fences are like little shit brick houses. I'm telling you, first time I ever rode in a beginner's chase down there, and I went to look at it, I could barely see over, and I was like, what am I doing? And I was like, I'm telling you, if you can jump around Gordon, you'll jump around anywhere. But I think he's one of the best horses in training, and he'll do the business here and all the way to Cheltenham. Just on the rest of the card, you've mentioned the qualified riders race, the last race, and I'm sticking to home, but I'm giving Eddie Cawley's horse a good chance here. If you go back, don't mind his last run in the ladies race, but the run before that in Punchestown, I happened to bring the horse to the races for him because Eddie had runners in Cork, and JJ Slevin rode him. It was over 2 mile 5. He finished fourth, but he was staying. If you watch him from the back of the last, he stayed on really well. He had horses like Fully Charged, Alpha Mix, and Port Stanley ahead of him, who are 3 decent handicappers. I don't think there's anything like that in this race. And when JJ came in, he said he probably should have gunned them earlier because all he done was stay on. He's got a furlong and a half extra. He's won a hurdle around Punchestown. He acts well around Punchestown. Jumps like an absolute stag. So I actually haven't been talking to Eddie. I don't know who rides him, which would mean a lot because, as we know, there's a big caliber between our good amateurs in this country and our book amateurs, basically. But if he can secure a good jockey at 10-13, I'd definitely be giving him a good each way chance if they ride him good and positive again.
Yeah, remind me of your record as a. No, I won't. I won't go there. Barry, let's get to you. Bob Olinger, yes or no, and what else on the Punchestown card?
He'll have to jump a lot better. Tom was talking about Gore and fences. I thought he was a bit skewy at 1 or 2, I must admit. Master McShee obviously has done the form no harm by coming and winning a grade 1. He was in behind on that occasion. Bacardi's a decent yardstick. So, look, Capodanno is the one I can't wait to see run. Whether he, I don't know. I think there's it'll be interesting to see whether he actually does run. I think there's a day in mind for Capodanno when it comes to Cheltenham. Trying to predict what JP's going to say now. Ronan's giggling. The other one. Look, Bob Olinger probably goes and wins here, but I couldn't, at his current price, anti-post for Cheltenham, I couldn't be having that.
Just say one more thing, Mike, about Punchestown. That's actually a very good mare's handicap hurdle. That all class that we've been talked about a bit, Rowan McNally's goes in that. But I think very interesting to see Willie Mullen's horse in that. It's come from Paul Nichols and ran a cracker first time out. Whiskey Lullaby was third behind Bold Getaway, I think Fame After the Glory of Gavin Cromwell's, rated off 109, and I think that Guard Syndicate, what's it called, the Blue Bloods, isn't it, or something? They've taken hold of that, so that could be interesting off 109. Willie Mullins, that could be well handicapped.
Well, it's almost time for your Whiskey Lullaby. Let me just tell you what's coming up in the forthcoming weeks, and not to be missed, of course. The entries are now out for the Grade 1s. First weekend in February is the Dublin Racing Festival. And then working backwards, the week before that, which is in a fortnight, is Trials Day at Cheltenham next weekend. Wow. Although we'll have to try and limit his word count. We could have the Clarence House at Ascot featuring Shishkin, Energumene First Flow. The Rossington Main at Haydock featuring John Bon. Yala Enki in the richest race ever run at Taunton. And, of course, the Lingfield Winter Million as well. So it's going to be some weekend. You cannot afford to miss an episode of Champ.ie. It is, of course, available to you 24/7 after the 3 wise maestros have nailed their colours, trousers and their cash to the mast. And it is time for them to do so with this weekend. I'm going to have the last word and put my 2 in, having tipped non-runners last weekend for both Nap and Next Best. At least I've got no explaining to do. Barry Doyle, you've been last all day. You go first this time. Nap and Next Best of the weekend.
Let's go with Nap in the classic chase, Duracall Rock. And that is the 3 o'clock, 4-1, Nap.
That is at Warwick.
Well, what did they say?
The Next Best.
Did they say it was Kempton? Next Best, Mr. Vince. Lord Baddesley. In the Kempton race, 350. Like his chances each way. Plenty of juice in his mark.
Right, we're going to do this then with Mr. Ronan Groome next.
Nap Green Book in the Lanzarote at Kempton. It's the Kempton 315, is it 2-4 or 315?
Yes.
And Next Best, look out for Secret Sheep Heaps. Runs at Fairy House in Mayor's Maiden Hurdle. Just going to get you a time now. I believe it's 2:32 for Henry de Bromhead. I think this one could emerge as a one for the Mayor's Novice Hurdle. She ran really well over Christmas. She's owned by Rob Corr. Could see her back for the Solarina at Fairy House next month. Sure, as I said, ran nicely on her debut at Leopardstown, and I think she can oblige Fairy House on Saturday.
And Tommy Coyle.
My nap is going to be Whiskey Lullaby in that mare's handicap in Punchestown. I just think £17 for all class the last day might just start to stop her. But I think Whiskey Lullaby could be winning a good handicap somewhere down the line. So he's my or she's my nap. And my next best is in the 3 o'clock in Warwick. No rematch for Evan Williams and Adam Wedge. Have another big Saturday winner.
Well, I've kept my mouth shut so far, but I'll throw mine in. I'm going to nap a horse called Gliding Love in the 323 at Wetherby for Nicky Richards and Brian Hughes. And I'm going to next best something that reminds me of you three. A horse in the Lanzarote called Up for Parole. On which point, it is my pleasure to say a big thank you in no particular order to Ronan Groome, Thomas Coyle, and Barry Doyle, the three wise men of the Champ.ie podcast. And guess what, folks? We'll do it all again next week, whether it be Warwick, Kempton, Wetherby, Fairyhouse, Punchestown, or wherever. Good luck with your bets this week. And remember, Champ.ie, the winning podcast.
Inside the final 150 yards, this is a special pair, and it's a Hattons for the break. And it's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by a